Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here for another Scrap Your Scraps Thursday night. I have a whole ton of pastes and things that I am going to try to use up some of tonight. Anyway, I am starting a new journal, and I always like to decorate my journal. So how I do that is usually with my mixed media stuff. So I've just opened my journal to the back, to the center of it, and I'm just going to pop paper underneath because what I find happens with all the, sorry, lost you for a minute there, with all the pasty stuff is that it gets on the edges of the paper and then I can't open my journal pages. So I'm going to tuck those under. So now I have this nice open airway. Now I have a tendency to put a very light coating of a paste on here because it does need to open and close, open and close, open and close. And if it puts something on a little too thick, it will end up being it'll snap, and I don't want it to snap. So I have done a couple of samples of some of the materials that I have here, and I want to add a couple of textures. I have some flaky texture, some bead texture, and some crackle texture, so I want to add those in as well. And I'm just going to pick a few colors that I can start with. Now you can see that the pearlized ones are more opaque and the icy ones obviously are icier. These are new samples, so I'm getting it all over me. But I think I'm going to start with a silver base. That's my go-to. So let me just figure out where my silver is. There it is. And I'm just using a Teflon scraper just to get it all over because I want to get rid of the brown look, but I don't want to go to a white. So I'm just going to put a big blob of this out. I may or may not need this much. And I'm just going to basically swipe it down all over my book. Remembering just to leave a small area. And I want to move fast because this stuff does have a tendency to dry very quickly. I want to use as much as I can and try not to waste any. Get that off there. So it gives you more of a neutral color to work with. I just want to get that all covered over. And then I'm just going to sort of flatten it out a little bit because there's going to be a fair number of layers on this. I want to keep that first layer as flat as possible. Now I have some here. I'm going to go in with a wet paintbrush. I'm just going to loosen up some of this and just paint my spine with it. Now this paint, or this paste, can be painted with, or you can use your spatula for texture. It's quite fun. I don't even know if it's available anymore. Like I said, I'm using up my old stash and trying to be cognizant of I've got materials, don't buy more, you know, that idea. And I'm just going to put that there for a second. And I'm going to spray down my paintbrush a little. And just smooth this over a little. So it's thick still in a whole bunch of areas. And I'm going to get my big brush and give that a whack. All right, so here's my big brush. I'm going to spray it with some water here. Probably should have had a container of water. And now I'm just going to go over it and try to flatten it down a little because I don't want it to be too textury to start. Just clean it off a little bit. I'm not worried about there being other colors on here because this is not going to be your beautiful art page. This is going to be a bit of a distressed looking art page. And what I need to do quickly is to get a spatula or a palette knife. I'm just going to stick these guys in some water. Just make sure the wet is off the mat. Okay, so now I want to mix up some crackle paste, and I'm going to color the crackle paste because I want it to go all over my book. So I'm going to do it over here. Oh, please. That's telling me that perhaps my paste is too dry. Oh, nope. There we go. Get some of that off there. I'll stick that in upside down. I do have another one, but I wanted to use this up, so I think we're going to have to cut this because it's not going to last much longer. So this will be good for this project. And that is probably it. See all that beautiful stuff that's left underneath there? Okay. And I'm just going to open this up. There we go. And turn that over. And I have a clip. So the clip will help to keep it. Not that one. Maybe this one. Help to keep the air out. There we go. Because I may need more. Who knows what I'll need. Okay. Gonna get rid of that. Right. Okay, so get our book back. Oh, first of all, I have to decide the color I want to put into that. I'm going to go with a pearl, a pink pearl. But maybe I should do the red because mixing red with white will make a pink. So I've got this orangey corally color. And I'm not going to put as much as I have for the crackle because I just want to slightly tint it. And you can see that it's starting to go that pinky color, and you just keep scraping it and blending it. And the thing about crackle is you don't want it to be too thick because then it won't crackle because it'll take forever to dry. And it won't crackle properly. But you also don't want it too thin because then all you have is this kind of frosty surface as opposed to an actual crackling surface. So we definitely want to have a medium-ish amount of crackle. So let me just put that away over there. Put those away. Get my book back. And now's a good time to make sure your book isn't stuck to your paper. Like it is on that side. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to grab some of this. And now I'm just going to spread it in a medium thickness on the book. So my hope here is to actually get the pink to fracture. There's a bit of a hard thing there. Don't want the hard thing. The pink to fracture so that I can see the gold, the gray or silver underneath. So I'm just going to go back in here, bring it right to the edge if I can. And I'm just going up to the spine because I don't really want to go over the spine with this. And then we kind of just leave it to do its thing, but I'm going to be adding heat. And heat does change the crackle. Most crackle prefers to crackle air drying. But because of the video, I don't want to take the time to do that. We're just going to spread this out as best we can. This might be a bit of a thinner layer, which is fine. I think that might be the back of my book anyway, because it's already drying. I should have probably done that in two mixes. I am actually going to take my big brush. I'm going to squeeze all the water out of it, and I'm just going to try and spread this a little nicer. There we go. So this is going to be a much thinner coat with some bulky parts to it. Okay, put you in there. All right, I'm going to just put this aside so I can clean up. And then I'm going to dry it and I'll be back. Okay, so here's the front of my book. And it's cracking lovely. So when you do it thick, you get, everything from the fine little fracturing to the big chunky cuts. And this isn't quite dry yet, so it will continue to crackle until the point at which it's completely dry. Now, here's something to note. It does burn. So I had my heat gun underneath the bottom to help to dry it out, and I actually burnt it so it bubbled up. This also is finer, and you'll notice that the cracking is more consistent, whereas this, it's like all over the map. Here, it's more consistent. The size of the cracking tends to be a consistent size. So this is the difference between a thin coat and a thick coat. I prefer the thick coat personally, and I like the fact that it continues to do its cracking while you continue to work on it. So now that we are sort of like we've done the big overall stuff, I want to do some little bits on, and I don't know that I'm going to do much on the back, but definitely on the front because that's the front side I see. And I just want to try to help it to decide to be flat. And I think I will use a paper clip, but I want to be careful how I do that because I don't want to damage the cracking. So I'm going to get myself a piece of paper towel and a bigger bulldog clip. I'm going to fold this over several times so it's nice and cushy. And then I'm just going to put that at the very, very top edge. And I'm going to work at the bottom edge. There we go. So I don't ruin my cracking, but I can keep my cover flat. Now I want to mix up a little bit of bead texture. This stuff is kind of cool. Hopefully it'll come out. And I don't know if you can see that. Oop, but it's actually got beads in it. I'll show you when I've got it on the paper. I'm going to mix that with a different color, and I think I'm going to go with the purple ice. So this is a translucent color. Just put a little there, And I really like the way these pastes are packaged, because for the most part, as long as you use it, there isn't any sort of air getting into the container. The only problem is if the top spout gets clogged, then you're done for, like my crackle paste was getting that. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to apply my bead texture to this bottom corner to give it a little bit of interest, right over top of the crackle paste. And I'll take a tiny little bit and maybe throw that up along the spine here. Now this is three-dimensional. I think I'll take some more, just kind of spray it out here. And what you want to do is really make sure that the beads are kind of spread out, because that's the coolness of the paste, is that there are beads in the paste and you can see the beads. And we're just going to keep messing with this a little bit, spreading those beads out a little bit more. I don't care if I can see the pink underneath. We're building texture. All right, so that's it for that. Let me get my cleaning cloth here. And we're going to let that dry. Okay, so there we have the beaded texture on the corners. Now we're going to take some flaky texture, and we're going to mix another color into the flaky texture. And I think we want some blue. Don't want a lot. Nice blue. And I'm going to put that in there. Don't want too much. And we're just going to mix those two together like we did with the purple. Because the paste itself has that white background, everything is going to be pearlized or tinted. Flakes in here are white as well. So first thing I'm going to do is switch this around. I want to lay this fairly flat because you want to see the actual flaky parts. I don't want it to be too thick. This will only stay if you have parts of the actual pasty part with the flake. So I'm going to leave that to dry now. Okay, so here you can start to see some of the texture that's building on the front. We've got the crackle and the beads at the bottom and the flakes at the top, or beads at the top and the flakes all over. Okay, so now I want to rub some color into this. And I'm going to go with an acrylic paint that is from the same line. And I'm just going to use my finger to kind of smudge this around a little. I don't want to have a whole lot. And I'm going to probably water it down. So I'm going to put some water to the side there. Get my finger, and I want to dig out some of that texture and highlight some of that texture. So to do that, I'm just kind of putting a light film of blue over top, which is minimizing the pink, which is great because I'm not a big fan of pink. And it's just going to give, some of that pink is still going to show, but it's highlighting the crackle effect. And I'm just kind of placing it in where I see way too much pink, along the spine a little bit. Oops. Ooh, too much blue. Actually, maybe that's not a bad thing. Let's see if we can spread that out a little. I actually don't mind it mixed in with the flaky as well. Now I'm just going to allow it to be dark in some places. That weathered look to it. So it's light in some areas, dark in other areas. Don't mind a little bit of it over top of the purple. Just put a little more dark along the edges. Darkening up the sides a bit here. Drawing this across the top. So here we are. We've got some more layers. I can even darken that up a little. We've got some blues and some pinks coming out here. So I'm liking what I'm seeing very much. All right. Whoop, I knocked a piece out. See, that's what you want to avoid doing. And I think I'm going to have to seal the book. So I knocked this little piece out of its spot. I do not want to have a piece of silver just sitting there. So this is telling me that I will have to seal it when I'm done, because you don't want parts of your book falling off. All right, so now there's that side, and this side, not loving it, but it's the back. So on this one, I'm going to do some straight blue glaze, and that should give me an all over hue of purple. Oh, ugh. So I'm going to dig that in, add a tiny bit of water to spread it out a little bit, and I need to have way more than that. So let's go in. There we go, that should do it. The glaze will stick into the spots. And I'm just getting this down on here quickly, and then I'm going to massage it in so that it's smoother looking and it doesn't have the brush strokes. I'm going to use my finger to do that. This looks pretty messy, just the way it is, but now I go in with my fingers and I try to take away some of that brush strokiness. Now, underneath I have the brush strokiness of the crackle paste, so I'm not going to get rid of all of it, but at least this will minimize some of it. And I'm just going to spread that all over. I'm just going to dry that a little. Before I go any further, I'm going to want to seal this. So I'm going to get my papers back. Now I'm not really concerned if it stays shiny or not, so I'm going to use Collage Medium to do the sealing. Okay, so I have Collage Medium, and literally I'm just going to pull a whack of it out. Oh. See, that's what happens when you don't use things. Oh my gosh, that's dead. Okay, luckily I have another one. Yeah. Ooh, much better collage paste. Probably should have shaken it up. It's got some liquid in there. Clear liquid. So this is matte medium. It will go down matte. Oh, and I got some color in there. That's not good. Need to be a little more careful. I'm just putting a layer over top of everything we have going on here. Make sure it gets into the crevices along the spine. Now, I would put this back in if it weren't so close to the blue. I don't want to risk putting more color into my collage medium. I also need to make sure I've wiped down my inside of the lid because it's covered with collage medium, and that will make it very difficult to open. Okay, fingers need some cleaning, this needs some cleaning, so. And we're gonna dry this. Don't worry about things curling when you're drying things. Okay, so I am gonna let this dry naturally because if I heat this, because it's kind of acrylic-y, it will just keep being sticky and it'll never dry. So I'm just going to leave that to dry. In the meantime, I am going to create these layered delphiniums. And I'm going to use my little sidekick. My sidekick is coming in very handy because I find it's excellent for using up scraps. It's small profile. I might have to use a longer plate. Let me just check. Nope, that'll be tight, but I think I can get away with it. And there's no embossing on it, so I don't need an embossing plate. And I've chosen these blues, which kind of go along with what's happening in my paper here. And I've chosen these purples because they go along also with what's happening in there. And I think with these two colors it will diminish some of the pinkiness that's on there, which is not my favorite, as I've told you before. All right, so these dies are kind of cool because it tells you how many of each of these dies you have to cut in order to create one flower. So I can do many more flowers at a time. Now I want to start, so the way I figured this out is that if you look at the flower, it's dark, medium, and light, and that's kind of how I want to play it out. But of course, in these center sections, I'll be playing with it just a little bit. And so these guys are going to be, so I'm going to do 3 in each of these colors, these 2 colors here, because this one really only is kind of up at the top. Now, what would have been super perfect would have been for me to actually blend the colors I want, because if you look carefully at the picture, you've got one piece of paper with multiple sort of colors on it. So that would have been ideal, but I don't have time for that today. And I do want to get this project done so that I can get it online to you. So this paper is just slightly too big. I need to chop that down. My sidekick has an opening of 2.5 inches. So it's a little narrower than some of the other newer models. The remainder will go into my scrap bin. That one I think is fine. That one should be fine as well. And while I'm out, 2.5 inches on this one. Alrighty. I'm going to do 2 runs of this. And I'm going to try to do it in a way where I can kind of scooch each of them back to back. And I also want to make sure that I'm not too far up at the front. Get my poker. Poke out all the ones that haven't come out. It's a fantastic die. It cuts beautifully. So there's one set. Like I said, I'm going to try to squeeze as much out of this paper as I can get. So being very tight to the edge there. And because I'm on a mat, I have to keep resetting my lock because the mat gets air bubbles in it. And that's one, and this paper will go back into my stash for other projects. There is all of those guys. So I'm going to continue cutting, and then I'll come back and we'll show you how to piece it together. Okay, we're back. So I have just been flattening this folder down. I'm going to get some paper towel and just to keep it closed while I'm working on it. And I'm going to make sure I don't crunch my hard work here until it's completely dry. For the most part, it is dry, but I don't want to take a chance on the last little minute things. Okay, so I have cut out everything that I needed to cut out. Technically, this is supposed to be worked as a three-dimensional flower where you would join both stems together down the center, leaving a little pocket, if I can get that open, for you to stick the flowers in. But I'm not going to do that. I am going to create a flatter version of this, so I won't be using a stylus and a molding mat or anything like that. I'll be using my thumbs and my tweezers for things because I don't want it to stick out too far from the surface of my already really interesting looking journal. So what I've done here, is I've attached, they give you a stem piece so that you can make the stem longer or shorter, depending on what your project is. I have my first stem where it's going to go about this tall, and then I'm going to have a second stem that's, I actually might have to get on an angle, second stem, and then I'll have a third stem when I do the purple as well. But we're going to work on this one so I can show you how I'm piecing this together. For the moment, I need to at least get the center of the stem stuck onto my album. So I'm going to go in there. I want to keep that free so I can see that interesting texture. So I'm going to just take my regular glue. I have clear glue, and it's quick dry, which is what you need for this kind of a project. I'm not going to put any glue on the stem bits because I will still tuck stuff under. But as far as making it three-dimensional, I'm going to be limiting what is three-dimensional. And I'm just going to stick this down right on my cover. Now I know what I should have done before I did that, but we can do it still. All right. And I'm just going to hold that down until it sticks. Now what I should have done is, for these little things that you're going to tuck pieces under, you want to kind of roll them back so they have a little pocket, a rounded pocket that you can stick something under. It's very hard to do this when you have it done flat, so I'll give you a sense of what this is going to look like. And you're just creating a little hollow spot so that you can stick your flowers underneath. And I didn't do that here, so it's going to be a little trickier. Going to have to use my nails. There we go. And you can see that now I have that little pocket that I can tuck a flower underneath. So, and this is only for the top flowers that you need to do this, because the others will be glued against your book. There we go. So we have the three-dimensional pocket there. All right, so now we can begin. Delphiniums, if you look at them, are basically Christmas tree shaped, long, tall triangles, triangles, with a few, generally speaking, a few unopened pieces at the top. Now, the other thing I could have done, if you wanted to be truly delphinium-like, is you could have a number of them unfinished at the top, but we'll start with that. First thing we have to do is we have to make up our petals, and I'm going to do the top ones first, so because they're unique. So these two guys here just need 2 individual petals. These two guys here need 3 petals. And then these guys here are your regular sized, which will need the 3 petals and the 2 petals. We're going to create those petals first. And simply because these are folded in, I'm just going to curl with my finger, giving a little bit of curl to the petal for there and for here. Oh, this one looks like it lost part of the petal. I might have cut that too short. There we go. Now, if you're creating one-sided petals, you want to make sure your best side is out, because these guys are going to poke together and get put inside, so they are going to have the good side on the bottom. So that I'll do that with all of these. You are hearing my dog at my door. She does not like it when I do not let her in. She's going to have to get used to it. If we're going to stick these petals together and slip them underneath the top of the flower, I'm just going to move those over. I'm going to have to glue them fairly tight. And they're not going to get a stymon, or those they don't get anyway, a stymon to go inside, because they will be pretty much flattened out. So all I'm going to do is just fold it under, put some glue on all 3 sides, and I'm going to stick it under the top tab, and like that. So it's under that tab. It's still 3-dimensional, but I can put it in my purse and not worry about it. Now, one thing I do want to do is make sure that this is flat as well. I'm just going to hold that for a second. There we go. So that's laying nice and flat, and it's showing my little bud. So I'm going to do the same for the other one. A little on the front, a little on the back, a little on the sides. I'm going to tuck that up under and make sure that that's going to stay down. Okay, so that's with the 2. Now this one is with the 3. Goes up here a little bit. This one you can include a stamen if you would like. So what I've seen done on the internet is that people make these stamens even a little bit more fluffy, and they split these stamens a little bit more to make them a little bit fluffier. That's one thing. And then we are going to put some glue on here and take the tweezers and roll them up. There we go. So there's your stamens, and you're going to want to open them up a little bit. And then some people have used some flock or something to darken the tips. I'm just going to use my black marker so that they look darkened on the end. I'm going to bend these guys into the center, and you can see it kind of forms a little triangle. That's where I'm going to put my glue and my stamen. And I'm just going to make sure that my stamen is standing up. Now you don't really see the stamens that much. There we go. You can see them in there if you're really, really looking. I'm going to try basically make that a triangle. So you can see how I've made that a triangle, and I'm going to slip it in to this. And I'm going to glue the top of this and put some glue down there. And I'm going to slip the whole thing underneath. There we go. And I think I'm going to need a tiny bit of glue underneath the bud as well to keep it down. So there you have it. You can start to see the shape of it. And now we're going to do we're going to do the other one first. Might as well keep it to Actually, I think I'm just going to color these while I have it in my hand. Nice thing about craft mats, even permanent ink comes off it. And then again, we're going to roll this up and we're going to open up the stamens so that we can see them. I'm going to put some glue in the middle. I'm going to stick this on, fold the flower around it. We are going to take some glue and glue the underside of that. A little bit of glue here, maybe a little bit more there. And we are now going to slip this. Of course, this is a very delicate operation. And just hold the whole thing. This one and that one. And now we're moving on to this one and this one. So these are full-on flowers. Okay. Dog has been taken care of. And now we're just going to fold these guys in half, put a bead in the center of the set of 3 so that we can line these up. Doesn't want to stick. Get another one of these stamens and open them up a bit. Pop that inside. Now we have our stamens in there. Now the whole thing is going to get closed up. And we're going to make sure that that is rounded. And we're going to tuck this under there. Flatten it out just a little. And we'll do the same to this one. All right, there we go. So there's the upper part. We could add one there if we wanted to. I'm just going to clean off these a little tiny bit because everything is getting stuck to them. So now we are going to go to the medium color. And let me see. Just want to make sure I have the right amount for my second flower, which is another blue one. So we can have one set of blue coming out from under here. And then we're going to fold these guys over. And now these guys are going to go out the opposite way. So they are going to, the good side is the side we're going to use our thumbnail, our non-gluey thumbnail, to round them, because these are going to stay open. So the good side is up and the rounding is up. Whereas for these guys, we had to have the good side on the bottom and rounding the bottom down. Okay, here we go. We need 2 stamens. I'm going to color the tips. Actually, there's one thing I do want to do. I'm going to pull up the flowers a little bit more. So there is sort of a alcove for that flower to go. Put it in the center. All right, so these 2 guys are ready to go. This is to hold the flowers, so to give them a bit of position and to cup them a bit. I don't want to cup them too much, but I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to bend these over. I'm going to put that one there. So we have 2. Double glue in the center of that. Now this go up here. There we go, and that helps it just stand up a little bit. And, whoa, I knocked over my stamen. I have a second flower going here. All right, and so now you can see it's starting to get a little bit three-dimensional. I'm trying to keep it as flat as possible, so my flowers will be sort of spread out a little bit. I'm aware that I could knock off these guys. In fact, I may decide not to use them at all because they're too much in this case. So it looks to me like there's big and little ones. So I want to make sure I pay attention to that because I want to see. Oh, that over there. Don't pull too hard. That's the lesson in that. So these are all different. So those two are the same, but do you notice how this is not the same as that? Even when I turn it around, it just does not match. It's like a smaller version. And this appears to be even a third one. Yep. This is a third one because it has an interesting petal. Oh, that's what happened. Somehow that got cut off. Well, we'll have to see how we can manage. So these guys are even different. So we have different versions of this. So those two are the same. Does it make a difference which one we use? I have really no idea. So actually these two are the same. This one. So there's like 4 different sets. And that might be why I had some difficulty getting those things to match up. So we're curling up these guys as well. I'm going to do these guys first. Keep that one to the side. Put that in the center. And this larger one can go here or here maybe. I don't think I like having the small ones over the top of the larger ones. So these guys are bigger. So I'm going to glue them behind. There we go. They do have a direction. It's just figuring out what that direction is. And then you have to remember it for all times. Okay. Now, I have to make a decision about the stamens. I feel like the stamens are too big. Do not like them. So I'm pulling those out. And I think what I'm going to do is just flatten them. No, not a fan of the stamens. Okay, so let's get these guys up and running. I've made a decision about those as well. I think I'd rather have those inside. Okay, let's just start sticking these down and we'll play around with them. This is not absolutely clear how they should go. I did watch a couple of videos, but again, not absolutely clear how it should go. Oh, I just realized something. I need to have enough of these for the other side. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. So we need that for the other side. Now, these guys I want in the centers because it just finishes it off. There we go. I'm much happier. And I think I might stick a little pearl in there. Much preferring these. Now, if it doesn't absolutely represent. Delphinium, I'm okay with that. It's giving the idea of a delphinium. One more, and then we can do, then I want to do the actual greenery at the bottom, so I know where the darker blue can go. Look how pretty that is. That's becoming pretty. I think I don't really like the green there, to be honest, but oh well. Okay, now this greenery, we have two for this one. And these blue, I'll go for the other one. Now, these guys, I'm going to do a tiny thin line because it needs to have some veining. Just a little bit. Doesn't have to be to every part. There we go. Do the same to this, just to give it some more reality. So you can see that we've got some veining happening in there. And these are going to be all turned up at the bottom area. And then I'm going to turn them over at the top. And then it's just a little mound at the bottom. So we've got that three-dimensional thing happening down here. All right. And then I've got space to fill these in. So I'm going to put these together and then I will show you the finished flower. And remember that this project will have more than one flower. Okay, so here we have our finished flower on this side. I might put another flower dropping down here just to fill in that empty spot. And now I'm just going to whip through doing this one here. We're going to start off. Here I decide to put in that extra flower that I had spoken about. I add some tiny gems to the center of each of the flowers. I decided to add some of the stamens into some of the flattened flowers just so you could see the tips of them. So this is where we are at with our album cover. This is my notebook. My inside notes are still more or less not sticking. And my papers are more or less a little bit stuck, but I can pull them apart. And there is my delphiniums, still showing my beautiful stuff around the outsides. Now I just need a title for my book. So I forgot to turn on my camera to finish off this video, but as you can see in this image, I did find a title for my book. If you enjoyed the video, please share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to at the end of the video, under the video, to my channel. It's free, and we'll see you next time. Bye.